I'm ICE Enforcement and Removal Operations Executive Associate Director Marcos Charles. Thank you for joining us this morning as we keep the public current on the status of Operation Metro Surge. As you know, DHS has arrested over 10,000 illegal aliens in Minnesota in the past year and over 3,300 illegal aliens since we launched Operation Metro Surge on November 29th. But instead of discussing statistics, we're going to discuss it's important to know that there is a cost for everything, and the cost of Minnesota's sanctuary policies is steep. ICE is in the Twin Cities to remove criminal illegal aliens who have been released from jails and prisons despite the risks they pose to the public. The people we've arrested are here are not people you want living next door to your families, your children, your parents, or your best friends. They're criminals like Salvadorian criminal illegal alien Carlos Antonio Flores Miguel, an MS-13 gang member and registered sex offender with a final order of removal from 2021. He was deported 4 times and convicted of illegal entry twice, and was charged with strong-arm rape and resisting an officer. Despite being arrested in El Salvador for robbery, the Biden administration released him in the United States in 2022. When we arrested him, he punched and kicked our officers and even attempted to grab an officer's gun. I don't know if it's up there, but this is our jump. This is the people that these protesters are protecting. We also arrested St. Lucian criminal illegal alien Nelbert Joseph, who has 11 criminal convictions, including larceny, stolen vehicle offenses, and has a final order of removal in 2023. We picked up Cuban criminal illegal alien Ivan Rodriguez Lopez, who has a final order of removal from 2018 and was convicted of assault, possession of methamphetamine, theft, and burglary. He also has prior charges for neglect or endangerment of a child and a DUI. These are the people protesters are protecting. We picked up Cuban criminal illegal alien, it's the wrong guy. Another one is the Laotian criminal illegal alien Yao Li, who was convicted of second-degree murder. And a Mexican criminal illegal alien, Pedro Laguna Cruz, who has multiple DUI convictions and a conviction of possession of controlled substance. These are the people who the church agitators were protesting for. These are the people the violent agitators ramming our vehicles and attacking our officers are trying to defend. It's easy to debate immigration enforcement when it's abstract, but behind every one of these arrests is someone who committed a crime that put your friends, family, neighbors, community in danger. The public deserves to know exactly who ICE has taken off the streets and why we're here today. It's my responsibility to make sure everyone understands that ICE is only in this state to pick up the ball that local leadership has dropped. Today, I want to ask Governor Walz and Mayor Fry directly, please honor our immigration detainers that we've lodged against criminal illegal aliens in Minnesota, in the state's jails and prisons. Please work with us instead of against us. Please remember the victims whose voices are no longer here to speak for themselves. Please stop creating obstacles to keep Minnesotans safe. We're all on the same team, and our cooperation will save lives. I'd like to turn this over to Commander Greg Bovino.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. All right. Well, good morning. I'm Greg Bovino, Commander at Large of Customs and Border Patrol Assets here in this great city of Minneapolis, Minnesota. I'm glad to be here this morning. I'll make a few remarks and then we're going to open this up to questions. Please hold all questions until the end. Now, folks, we've seen the excellent work that Mr. Marcos Charles has detailed here. This excellent work on these screens here. Marcos, you and your team are out there every day, Border Patrol, ICE, and those allied teams, and they're taking these folks off the streets. These folks were walking the streets less than 24 hours ago. Marcos and his team and Border Patrol are taking them off the streets by the dozens and sometimes hundreds every single day. So that's some fantastic work. We want to continue to accomplish that work. But what I would like to touch upon this morning is how much better this work could be. How much better can we do what we do? And how much better for who? For you, which you being Ma and Pa America and the taxpayer, how much better this work can be for the taxpayer. Now, better to the citizens here of Minneapolis as well. Minneapolis, 2020 riots, this most current influx of anarchists and folks that want to disparage and occlude this Title VIII law enforcement mission. So we can do this much better for the citizens of Minneapolis. And what this revolves around is the climate, the current climate surrounding law enforcement and this Title VIII mission in which ICE, Border Patrol, and these allied teams are fighting so hard to accomplish. Now, this climate that we talk about is not very favorable right now in Minneapolis. Let's put that as our first point. It's not very favorable to federal law enforcement here in Minneapolis. Let's take a look at what happened yesterday. Some of you may know that Border Patrol and ICE were out conducting our Title VIII mission, and several of our teams were set upon by violent protesters, anarchists, rioters, individuals, and extremists that were intent on ensuring that we did not take these very people that Marcos talked about off the streets. Intent that we would not arrest these individuals, these illegal aliens that prey upon Ma and Pa America every single day. So yesterday I had the fortunate opportunity to once again work with those fine agents in ICE and Border Patrol. And in doing so, from the very beginning of the shift all the way through the end of the shift, all day long, it was a running battle with those very extremists that I've talked about. So as we were looking to conduct that targeted enforcement against some very vile criminals, we were met with resistance. One of those criminals that we were after was Victor Urice, Mr. Victor Urice, a target that we were after yesterday. This individual is a convicted felon from Mexico with serious weapons offenses, fleeing from police, and a criminal rap sheet so long that I can't remember it all. That's who we were after yesterday. Now, as we were after Mr. Urice, we were set up on rioters who tried to stop us at every point yesterday. Simply using the restroom at a gas station was met with significant resistance. A lot of people would call that stalking. I don't think any of us would like to be stalked, but being stalked for 8 or 10 hours at a time is not a very favorable climate. Hey, folks, where were the cops yesterday? Where was Minneapolis Police Department during that 8-hour stalking events? Anybody care to venture a guess? I'd like to venture a guess, and it's I don't know. So it's that climate we're talking about. Violent mobs of rioters who became violent towards the end of the day. Our very last stop at a gas station was met with violence. Individuals that perpetrated violence against our Border Patrol agents, forcing us to take action, not against Victor Urice, the individual that we were after, but to take action against those violent anarchists who didn't want us to catch Victor Urice, if you can believe that. Absolutely unbelievable. Hey, where were the cops during that 8 hours of stalking and violence? Where was Mayor Fry? Where was, oh, I don't know, Governor Waltz? I didn't see him around anywhere. You know, there's a saying, I think Thomas Paine said that in one of his pamphlets, Common Sense. He said politics and politicians on their very best day are barely tolerable evil. Is this Mayor Fry's very best day yesterday? Oh, I don't think so. Absolutely not. So put yourselves as the media and the press there. Would you like to be stalked all day long with folks that want to hurt you all day long? Think about that. Also, I'd implore upon you to report that. We were forced to utilize less lethal devices again yesterday to keep the public safe, to keep the Border Patrol agents safe, and so that we could continue to conduct that Title VIII mission. That's our job here. We're not going to be deterred in conducting the Title VIII mission, no matter what that climate is, no matter that violent rhetoric by Mayor Fry, Waltz, and others, individuals that come into churches, as Mr. Charles said. We're not going to be deterred from that. So CS gas, pepper balls, a whole litany of less lethal devices were used to ensure that our agents, those agitators and rioters, and the public were safe, and that we continue to conduct that mission. Citizens were failed twice yesterday. They were failed twice yesterday. First, as I said, the response from Minneapolis Police Department and other local agencies, missing in action. That's what you call missing in action. When fellow law enforcement officers are in need, missing in action. Unconscionable. And then the second part of that is these criminal illegal aliens that were let back out on the streets. Let's go back again to Mr. Victor Urice. He was on probation, by the way. Our target was on probation. He was let back go on the streets of Minneapolis so that we had to go into the community. Never should have happened. We had to go into the community to remove him. Why not, Mayor Fry, Governor Waltz, turn this individual over to us so we're not in the streets, so that anarchists are not allowed to ply their trade of anarchy against law enforcement? Now, this didn't happen overnight. This anarchist-type movement has been well established here in Minneapolis since 2020. We all know what happened in 2020. The anarchists love this, by the way. They love this. This is just what they want. This is just what Mayor Fry, Governor Waltz, and others are giving them. This emboldened rhetoric vilifies law enforcement and creates very unsafe situations for law enforcement and occludes from the mission of taking these bad people, as Mr. Marcos Charles said, off the streets. Compliance, they think, is optional. Compliance is not optional, not when law enforcement conducts. It's legal, lawful, ethical, and moral duties. It's not optional. There is no option there. Let's get this straight. Do the anarchists want Victor Urice to remain on the streets? I think that's the base question. Just Mayor Fry and Governor Waltz. I've never heard them say a word about these violent, illegal aliens that roam their streets. I guess they want them there. But guess what? ICE, the U.S. Border Patrol, and those allied law enforcement agencies, President Trump, Secretary Noem, we don't want it and we won't have it. Law enforcement unquestionably is being targeted right now in Minneapolis. I'll close by saying that we're being targeted now in the Title VIII mission. What does this spread to in the future? That rule of law and order, what else will that spread to? Maybe some speeding tickets, or maybe another law or situation that someone doesn't agree with. It'll spread to that as well. We're not going to allow that to happen here in Minneapolis or anywhere else. We're here to stay the course. We will stay the course. U.S. Border Patrol, ICE, and all allied law enforcement agencies, we're here and we are going to accomplish the mission. I'm glad to be here. Our agents are ecstatic to be here. ICE agents are glad to be here. Removing that off the streets, it will continue. Thank you.
Commander. Let's start with Nicole, for the name and outlet.
Sure. Nicole Skanga, CBS National News, Commander Bovino, EA Charles. Thank you so much for being here. 2 days ago, you told us that Minnesota released nearly 500 undocumented migrants from state custody instead of transferring them over to ICE. And we took those numbers to Paul Schnell, who is the commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Corrections. He calls it fundamentally false. He said, as a matter of policy, DOC cooperates with ICE and ICE detainers. He showed us multiple examples of convicted criminals serving time in Minnesota state prisons, including names that you displayed on these screens, and he showed us how they were transferred from state prisons into DHS custody days before. EAD Charles, we also took your statement that there were more than 1,360 pending ICE detainers statewide, and he told us his department conducted a statewide survey, a review, and found just 207 individuals in state prisons and 94 in county jails are subject to ICE detainers right now. That's 301. Can you help us understand why Minnesota's top corrections official says not only has the state been honoring ICE detainers for decades as a policy, he doesn't understand where the Department of Homeland Security is getting its numbers from? What is your response?
So the Department of Corrections for Minnesota does honor our detainers. We pick individuals up from the state. It's the counties that do not honor our detainers. So when the state gets them and those detainers are lodged against the state, we get those bodies.
So
However,
the state is
the
cooperating
state DOC is the only entity that we can pick up from. We're opening up dialogue with some of the counties, and we are looking to see if they are more willing to honor our detainers at this time. The 1,300 number is statewide in counties that we have lodged. They may not have record of it if they don't file them, because they don't honor them. They have no reason to keep them.
How do you fix that problem, and which counties are not cooperating with ICE so that we can follow up?
Just look at the majority of the counties. Just go through the list. I believe there are 87 counties in Minnesota. Just look through every one of their records. That's what I suggest as far as that. As far as what we can do to make it better, the governor should talk to the counties and let them honor our detainers. Many of these sheriffs want to help us.
And just as a final point, though, it is true that some of the worst have been handed over to ICE by Minnesota state officers from Minnesota state prisons.
Some of the ones that we have up here,
Correct.
the ones that we've listed, I believe, have all been either arrested at large or come from a county that has released them and we picked them up.
But through a coordinated transfer.
No, not all.
Go ahead.
Commander Bovino, sources tell MS Now that you had an argument with a magistrate judge on duty here in Minnesota recently. Can you describe why you were upset with that magistrate judge?
Okay, sir, I've not had any argument with a magistrate judge. You're going to have to be more specific there. I've not talked to a magistrate judge from then to myself, no.
We understand it's because you were upset with the magistrate judge for rejecting arrests on the grounds of assaults on federal officers. They argued it wasn't warranted. Do you have any comment on that?
I do. We work very hard with Department of Justice, with the courts to gather and obtain those warrants. One of those warrants, we'll go back to Victor Urice here. We did work several days to get a warrant for this individual, and we worked through what we needed to do to get a warrant for this individual. And we're going to continue to work with judges and the courts to obtain these warrants with those judges.
And then final question, do you have any moral or ethical qualms about detaining a 5-year-old on his way back from preschool?
Be more specific. I don't.
William Ramos from the Columbia Heights School District, do you have any moral or ethical qualms about that?
We conduct legal, ethical, and moral law enforcement missions here in Minneapolis. So as far as what you're saying with that particular individual, you'll have to be more specific because I didn't detain a 5-year-old. And we're going to continue with that law enforcement mission. Oftentimes you will see violent illegal aliens that perhaps do have families. And those violent criminal illegal aliens are going to be arrested. I've got no qualms about making America a safer place when we arrest those illegal aliens. Next question.
Commander Alex Capriello with News Nation. You talked a lot today about the hostile environment that your agents are facing. We do know that military assets, namely National Guardsmen, are literally waiting in the wings for the president to invoke the Insurrection Act to actually provide that backup that potentially you might need. Would you encourage the president at this moment, given what you've seen on the ground here in Minneapolis, to invoke the Insurrection Act to help you?
I give Secretary Noem and the president, as do the other law enforcement leadership here, information briefs and data points multiple times a day so they can make any decisions that they need to make as to whether to put troops on the ground or not. So I'll leave that for President Trump and Secretary Noem based on the vast amount of information that is parlayed to them each day.
And a quick follow-up, you used some tear gas yesterday, and I know you just mentioned it, but obviously there was a recent ruling that was an appeal from the Department of Justice to allow your agents and federal agents to use those types of measures. Can you comment on what that allows you and your men and women to actually do out here on the ground?
Sure. I believe the case you're talking about was overruled and yesterday by a higher court anyway. It wouldn't have mattered because we follow the law. When we utilize less lethal munitions or any use of force, it's called the minimum use of force necessary to either effect an arrest and or accomplish a mission. So we did that. Whether or not that ruling was in effect, we still did that yesterday. Our agents are being violently assaulted by agitators and anarchists, and the use of that less lethal is something that I always call more than exemplary. A great use of force yesterday to keep agitators, Border Patrol agents, and the public safe. Let's go again to that word less lethal. Less lethal. If we didn't have those less lethal munitions to utilize the minimum amount of force necessary to effect an operation and or an arrest, what's next?
Go ahead, right here.
Omar Jimenez with CNN. Just follow up on the 5-year-old boy we in Ramos that was detained with his father. The father, as our record shows, is detained in Texas. Just can you confirm that the 5-year-old was also sent to Texas with that father and why he wasn't left with his family here in Minnesota? And just to follow up on that, you talked about the stalking as you described it. Are you saying you called for Minneapolis police help and they didn't respond?
I'll go the second part of that first. As far as the stalking, Minneapolis Police Department's been called on several situations that they have not responded. Yes, by the patrol. Let me give you a specific example other than yesterday. Yesterday was 8 hours of that. But let me go specifically to 2 days ago. We had 2 off-duty agents in a restaurant eating. And they were descended upon by that violent mob, and the staff of that restaurant in downtown Minneapolis decided to try to lock them in the restaurant with those 40 to 50 agitators. Minneapolis Police Department was called. They never showed up. Our agents were in there for 45 minutes, and we called a tactical team that went out to extract those agents from that restaurant. So that's what we're up against. As far as state and local help, if that gives you any indication of the depth and scope of that. Now, as far as the 5-year-old and the father, I'll let ICE answer that because we turn our detainees over to ICE, and they do a fantastic job of discerning what and how that's going to happen.
Just one follow-up from you, Commander, before you turn it over. I've seen you in multiple cities to this point, in Chicago, here in Minneapolis as well, and the tactics have been very, very public-facing, just from a bystander perspective. It seems like that's the point. Correct me if I'm wrong, but why not take care of some of this enforcement during hours where you would be less likely to encounter the public to that effect, less likely to detain an American citizen who might be obstructed?
We go where the threat is, and we're going to go at the optimal time where those threats are present. Take serving a warrant, things like that, or these targeted enforcement efforts. What you may not realize is those efforts occur 24/7. Oftentimes, we cannot control where that suspect is at a given time, but what we can control is a safe time to apprehend that suspect. Oftentimes, that's early morning hours or when we encounter that individual that is alone or perhaps not near a crowd. So that's why we're in an area. It's just even getting in or near the area we're set upon by anarchists and rioters and things like that.
All right, right here.
Yeah, I'm Frankie with WCCO here at CBS. Do you have any updated numbers of how many agents are here? It's been a few since we've received them.
Sure, I won't give you an exact number. Those numbers are going to remain law enforcement sensitive, but several thousand Border Patrol, ICE, and allied teams, so several thousand.
Right here.
Bovino, Jorge Ventura with the Daily Caller. California Governor Gavin Newsom did take the stage at the World Economic Forum in Davos. Speaking to world leaders, he actually took a direct shot at you. Newsom saying, quote, Greg Bovino is dressed up as he literally went on eBay and purchased SS garb, secret police, private army, masked men are disappearing people with no process. Just, do you have a response for the California governor who just made those comments on stage?
Sure, Governor Newsom's had a long record of lying, and again, those are lies. I don't shop on eBay. This garb, as he quite uneloquently puts it, is a standard Border Patrol issue, has been since May the 28th, 1924. That's 101 years ago. So as far as what he specifically said, I don't know. While he's enjoying Davos and whatever he's enjoying over there, I'm out being, our agents are being assaulted and stalked by violent rioters, many of which I believe they draw inspiration from his words when we operate in California, because he says the same thing, some of the same things that Fry and Waltz said. So he is responsible for that very violence that our agents are subject to on a daily basis. Remember, it started in California, Operation at Large, Los Angeles.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Jack Brook with the Associated Press. Question for Mr. Charles. There are specific operations where ICE has broken into homes without a judicial warrant, and we know that there is an internal memo telling officers that they can enter a home without a judicial warrant. Do you feel that you're justified in entering a home by force using only an administrative warrant? And if so, how often have you done that in Minneapolis?
So first off, we don't break into anybody's homes. We make entry in either a hot pursuit with a criminal arrest warrant or an administrative arrest warrant. The thing to remember is these administrative arrest warrants have been deemed justified by courts, also in immigration purposes. Also, the one thing that you need to know is that these warrants are based on an immigration judge's decision that these individuals are now removable from the United States. This is their final order of removal, and those warrants are based on that decision.
The second question, just how many cases have there been where you have entered a home using only an
And again, right now that's law enforcement sensitive. I'm not going to go into those numbers.
Peter, also from Carolyn. Commander, you said yesterday with the MPD, calling them. Did you actually call Minneapolis police yesterday during that? And at a certain point, you obviously are very visible. Bigger people recognize you when you're out about with these agents. Do you think that your presence on these operations is helping or hindering in the moment?
Sure, I think anytime law enforcement is conducting that Title 8 mission, it certainly helps. As far as tactically helping yesterday, actually I do, and I'll explain that. Is that violent mob decided, perhaps because I was a bit more visible, to follow us. 16 other strike teams out in the field yesterday arresting dozens of those criminal illegal aliens were relatively free from that. So I believe if they want to focus their attention on me, that's better than focusing attention on those Border Patrol agents and ICE officers doing that lawful mission across Minneapolis.
Did you and your teams call Minneapolis police yesterday?
Yes, at some point, yes.
All right, last question right here.
Eric Shalou from KCB. Thank you for taking our questions. People in Minnesota want to know when this surge will end. Has there been a date set? Is there a certain number of people you want to apprehend before you decide to ease the surge? We've seen DOJ filings that put a number at over 60,000 people. Explain to folks how long you're going to be here and
As Marcos's team and U.S. Border Patrol work together, and we continue to apprehend dozens, if not hundreds, of these criminal illegal aliens a day, we're going to continue conducting that mission. We're not going to put a date or a timeline to stop this mission's ongoing until there are no more of those criminal illegal aliens roaming the streets of Minneapolis.
Is there a number, though? You have to have a file.
There is a number, and it's called all of them. Yep, you bet. All of them. We're not going to allow criminal illegal aliens to walk the streets and have more Molly Tibbetts, Jacqueline Nungare's, and all the other ones. I mean, you're worried about numbers. I'm worried about the deaths of Americans. Let's talk about that a little bit. Maybe Jacqueline Nungare, what her last moments were like. How come we never talk about that, and you're worried about numbers? Wait, no, hold on. Numbers? Jacqueline Nungare. Numbers, but your numbers, Jacqueline Nungare, well, actually, we never hear about her or the other thousands of American citizens. I'm worried about that vastly more than a number or a date. We're going to make Mom and Pa America safe. President Trump is, Secretary Noem is, and we're going to get them all. Did that answer your question? Sir.
Really quick.
Thank you.
Hey, Chief Bovino, really fast. Can you comment on the Vice President coming?
Very glad to have the Vice President here, Mr. Vance. He obviously, Mr. Vance is a supporter of the Title VIII mission. He knows what's at stake here. He knows what's at stake in Minnesota and nationwide. And one of our most ardent supporters of that Title VIII mission, one of our most ardent supporters of taking criminal illegal aliens off the streets, J.D. Vance from Ma and Pa America. Just like President Trump, Secretary Noem, he's for Ma and Pa America. And I can't think of a better individual to come down and talk to those Border Patrol agents and ICE officers. Marcos and I were talking here just before this press conference. One of the things that J.D. Vance does is he wants to hear from the rank and file Border Patrol agents and ICE officers. That's something very unique to him. He wants to come down and talk to them individually, see what's on their mind, their issues, concerns, and what's going on the ground. You don't see that a lot, but you sure see it with the Vice President. Vice President Vance, we can't wait to see him. We're glad to have him.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
This way, sir.